Please make the motivation that once I have attained this precious human body, I don't get attached to this samsara. Instead, I definitely may attain enlightenment, for which purpose I listen to the supreme teaching. And the teaching to be given is the practice of the children of the conqueror, or in other words, bodhisattvas. And this text composed by Tokmé Zangpo, and the author makes the text into three parts. The first one, the causes, in composing the text. So the causes, or the preliminary part in composing the text, is the title of the text, and thereafter making homage. With the title of the text, we explained before the 37 practices, and the homage is of two kinds. The short version is the Namo Arya Lokacharya, and the extensive version of the homage is the one verse following thereafter. With regard to the actual text, it is of the two kinds. With regard to the actual text, it is of three divisions. The first is the causes which lead to the generation of bodhicitta, and second part, the actual generation of the bodhicitta, and third, the precept after having generated the bodhicitta. And with regard to the causes or the factors leading to the generation of bodhicitta, we already explained the first 7 verses, and the actual generation of the bodhicitta, we explained the 3 verses following thereafter, which deals with the practices of the 3 different persons. So in total, the 10 verses. And with regard to the actual bodhicitta, it is of the conventional bodhicitta and the ultimate or the supreme bodhicitta. And now we are at the end or the concluding part of the conventional bodhicitta. With regard to the conventional bodhicitta, it is of 2 during the meditative time, during the meditation time, and the other during the post-meditation time. As the Tathagatas of the past, they have generated the bodhicitta. Likewise, I generate the bodhicitta by practicing on the practice of equaling and exchanging oneself with others. So that is the actual generation of the bodhicitta. And so during the meditation, one trains in the generation of bodhicitta by practicing on the equaling and exchanging oneself with others. And with regard to the post-meditation time, as we explained before, it is of 10 divisions. With regard to the 10 post-meditation practice of taking the bad circumstances as part, we already explained the first 8, and now remaining one are the 2 verses. The remaining one is taking the hatred or anger as part and taking the attachment as part. With regard to the hatred is, if one's internal enemy, the hatred is not defeated, then the external enemies, they will go on increasing. So our usual attitude of trying to defeat the enemy is a mistaken attitude. The enemy, they are not somewhere outside, they are actually within our mind stream, and the very enemy is the hatred. So actually the war which we have to fight against is against the hatred, and the force by which we have to fight is by love, compassion, and bodhicitta. Our internal enemy, which is hatred, if we can eliminate or defeat it, then nobody from outside can harm us. And because we have love and compassion in our mind stream, therefore nobody will be able to harm us. And even the time we die, the Master or the Lord of Death, Yamaraj, he also cannot harm us. Therefore, if we are to practice the practice of bodhisattva, then there is not any enemy outside, it is inside, and actually outside there are only the wish fulfilling jewels everywhere. So because of this reason, the seventh Dalai Lama, Gyalsé, he sang a verse which says that the enemy is not outside, it is inside the affliction. And what we have to do usually is to look to our Dharma practicing friend with the pure appearance practice. So this very means of trying to defeat internal enemy, the hatred, by the force of love and compassion is the very system or tradition of the bodhisattvas. If one has generated love and compassion within oneself, actually there is not any occasion for hatred or anger to arise. Actually, for a bodhisattva, any kind of bad circumstances is like finding or wish-granting jewels. And then we come to the attachment, taking it as the path, and the words start with the phrase, the objects of desire. So objects of desire, we know there are 5 in number: good food, good smell, good form, and so forth. The way we generate attachment and the object to which we generate could be external environment, beautiful environment, and the inhabitant sentient beings or delightful form. With regard to the money, in the beginning we try to accumulate or amass about $10, and thereafter when we get $10, we try to increase it by trying to have 100, and thereafter to 10,000 and to 100,000. So the attachment goes on increasing. Not trying to apply contentment is like declining the practice of the bodhisattvas. Same with the good food, as much you eat, if it's delicious, you want more to eat. And likewise with chang or wine, you want to drink it. Even if you are drunkard, you still want to drink more. So it is like the salt water, which as much you drink, there will never be any occasion of being satisfied. Instead, one will feel thirsty. Likewise, it is same with the good house. You can increase the attachment, and likewise with person, we can increase our attachment by concentrating on the body as being beautiful. Likewise, with the dress, you wear one with a very appealing color, and next time you still want to have another dress of another color. So the 5 objects of desire or 5 objects of attachment, they, if you don't look carefully, instead, if they become a means to increase your attachment, then this is the declining of the practice of the bodhisattva. And it is same with the leaders. Firstly, you want to become a leader of 10 person, and then you want to become a leader of small area, and afterward you become a chief or minister or a premier, and thereafter the prime minister, and thereafter you want to rule the whole world. Therefore, if we are to practice in accordance to the bodhisattva's practice, then we have to apply contentment, and actually we have to practice the 7 wealth of the bodhisattva. And for a practice of bodhisattva, if we have those 7 wealths, then we are in ultimate sense, we are the most wealthy person. And if we have those 7 wealths, there are the faith, effort, and so forth. And if we have those, then we are in ultimate sense the most rich person. And there is instance in the past when one of the king of Chinese kingdom, he asked to a Tibetan in Tibet who is the most wealthy person, and then the Tibetan replied back to the king, Longden Lama Rinpoche and Gelugpa Lama, very famous one. Longden Lama Rinpoche is the most wealthy one. And then the king asked back why he is the most wealthy one, because he has the seven wealth of the Aryas. And then the king asked the second question, who in Tibet is the most efficient person? And then the Tibetan replied back, Milarepa is the most efficient person. And the Chinese king asked back why? Because he has been able to attain enlightenment in this single lifetime. So we should have faith, and we should have pure morality, and then we should have the shy or shame in good sense and embarrassment in good sense. And if we have these qualities, then we don't need any other material or wealth. Actually, these are the real wealth. Actually, the objects which are of a very high price or high value, and to which we feel so dear and we feel so much attachment, these objects we should forsake or abandon, because if we remain keeping them, then they will become the means to increase our attachment. And if we keep those things, then we will increase or generate great attachment. And for beginners, the one in the beginning stage of practice, they actually shouldn't go to museums, and they also shouldn't go to beautiful highways to look at the cars, because it will possibly generate attachment. So while I'm laughing, is I was before insisting Geshe-la to visit outside museums. Because of this importance, the monasteries, they are actually the best site to build them is the solitary places. So the objects on which we generate attachment, we should forsake or leave them instantly. If we don't leave them instantly, then that will cause to decline our bodhisattva practice. So the objects which cause to arise attachment, we should forsake them, otherwise they will let increase our attachment. Actually, the objects of desire or attachment in the beginning, they seem so delightful and attractive, but there will come definitely an occasion or time that they will deceive you. For example, the business people who go for other places or other nations or other countries to do business, and on the way they get killed. So these are actually the cause of attachment. Why it is so is they are very much attached to the possible profit in the business, so they engage in black marketing, they get imprisoned, arrested, and that is great loss actually. And actually, with this person, in the beginning, we see from every part of his body very delightful and beautiful, and then get into companionship. Afterward, with the passing of the time, we feel or see the person as something black, and thereafter there comes a time when there's a split and the divorce, and these are actually the blessing of attachment. There is a saying or a proverb which means to think before the problem arises is a wise person, and to think after the problem has already arisen is just a pretense of being wise. So these are in brief the taking of the path during the post-meditation time. Now, the second part is the explanation of the ultimate bodhicitta. The phenomena, they appear as truly existent by their own side, but actually the way they appear is not the actual way they exist. And it is same with all the phenomena of the samsara and of nirvana. They appear as truly existent, but they are not. For example, with Dawa and I speaking, and the very speech, it is not truly existent by its own self. If the speech is truly existent by its own self, then it should not depend on the tongue and the throat or the neck and all the factors. And can we actually present a speech which is independently existent without depending on these factors? No. With the guitar's music, the music doesn't come apart from the dependence on the string and the skin and the wood. So it is speaking of Tibetan guitar. It's not on the skin and the wood and on the person's hand. And actually there's not any guitar separate, the sound of guitar separate from these. Even the script or the letters, they are not truly existent by their own self. They depend on many factors like paper, ink, eye, hand, and so forth. So the phenomena of the samsara and nirvana, they appear as truly existent, but they are not. And why they still appear as truly existent is because since time beginningless, we have been so much familiarized or in familiarity with it that it is like we are the yogi of misapprehension. Since beginningless time, we are very much accustomed to looking on things as inherently existent. So now what we have to defeat that attitude is by generating an outlook that things are non-inherently existent. Because we have been so much accustomed with misconceiving things as truly existent since time beginningless. So to defeat against that force, we have to depend on very good support of enough purification of the negativity and accumulation of merit. Not only the appearing objects or appearing phenomena, even the mind to which that appear, that very mind is not truly existent by its own side. If the mind is inherently existent, then it should exist either as one or as many. The mind is not existent as one in the ultimate sense. Why this is so is because the mind depends on its parts. And why the mind depends on its parts and how it depends is basically the mind depends on the body, and not only that, the mind depends on its preceding part, and the present mind will become the dependent part of the future. So the mind has three parts. And if the mind is inherently existent as one, then it should always be one. And because the mind is not inherently existent as one, then there's no talk about the mind being inherently existent in many, because many has to come out of one. And to look at the mind being inherently existent is the extreme of eternalism, and to understand that if the mind is not inherently existent, then it is not existent at all, then that becomes the extreme of the nihilism. And actually, we can present a mind which is existent by mere imputation, and such presentation of the mind becomes the middle one, and it's not fallen into the two extremes. To not mentally engage in the in the objective phenomena and the subjective mind is the practice of the children of the conqueror. So the mind which has the understanding of the emptiness and which is also with the motivation of the great compassion, then that is called the ultimate mind generation, or in another word, ultimate bodhisattva. Because this mind is in the meditative equipoise without any apprehension of the object and subject, therefore it is often said by the adjectivation that the ultimate bodhisattva is like the space. Why the analogy with the space? It is because usually space is mere absence of obstruction, and we cannot present anything which is concrete or substantial, which has to be a space. So once a person has sat in meditation on emptiness, and afterward when he arrives from that meditation, at that time, of course, the phenomena, they will appear to him, but he will not have any attachment. Instead, to him, the phenomena appear as mere illusion, and it is like the magician. He tried to present so many things out of magic, but we still know that they don't truly exist. They are just mere illusions. During the post-meditation time, even if the friends and the enemies, they may appear, but to look upon them as illusion and thereby to abandon the attachment and hatred is the practice of the children of the conquerors. So the text says, when meeting with the delightful object, to look upon like the rainbow of the summertime, so thereby not to look as truly existent even though they appear, and thereafter to abandon the attachment is the practice of the children of conquerors. So this is the rainbow. They may appear as very beautiful, but still they are not substantially existent, that we can't make any dress out of rainbow. So likewise, even the beautiful object during the post-meditation time, they may appear, but to look upon them as truly non-existent and as an illusion is to practice the way of the Bodhisattvas. The Padamba Sangye teacher, when he came to Tibet, he sang a verse to the people of Dingri, which says, in meaning, you the people of Dingri, you shouldn't feel attached to the human body because it is like a bag of excreta, bag of impurities. And he gave the meaning that the human body, it may look very beautiful, but still it is not to be attached of, because from mouth, vomit comes out, from other holes, the urine, excreta, etc., they come out. Also in Bodhisattva's way of life, or Bodhicharya Avatara, in that text, so many reasons have been put to avoid getting attached to the form. So I don't need to elaborate into detailed explanation. If I am attached to the external beautiful skin, then why shouldn't I be in love with flower because it has a beautiful skin? So the external skin of the person is not to be a real good reason to be attached of. And if the mind of that person whom I am in love of is to be attached of, then why should I be attached to its body? So thinking in this way, we can actually make the very object of our attachment as very silly. Is the taking the discordant factors or discordant conditions as the path. So whatever suffering, aging, and sicknesses we may encounter, but to not be depressed So this is the way to practice. And the Geshe Potwa, he used to say, I'm not afraid of dying, I'm afraid of taking rebirth, because as long as there's rebirth, there will be death. And if we have realized emptiness, then there will be no suffering. And as long as we haven't, and we are under the power of the attachment and hatred, then there will be the result of the suffering. But anyhow, whatever different sufferings there may be, they are in the very conception of a misapprehension. Therefore, even to look to the different kinds of suffering as mere illusion is one of the practice. And the bodhisattva who has remained in the meditative equipoise, and afterward when they arise from that meditative equipoise, then they look upon the things as illusion, and even if they see sentient beings suffering, they look upon that as one's son or one's child dying in the dream. So as long as they can't look upon the sentient beings as with suffering like a son dying in a dream, then it is like rubbing the or the removing the footprint by the handprint. You get the idea? So to take whatever discordant or evil conditions they may arise, to take them as illusion is the practice of the children of the conqueror. So these two are the practice of the bodhisattva during the time when they are not in the meditation. So the very term post-meditation means the time when they are not in meditation. From the precept, because mere generation of the conventional and ultimate bodhicitta is not sufficient. Instead, one has to train on the precepts. The precepts on which the bodhisattva has to train, it is of two kinds. First is the 6 perfections and the 4 means of attracting sentient beings. And second is the means to make firm the bodhicitta. And with the 6 perfections, we come to the first one, the perfection of the generosity or giving. And with an ordinary person training on the path, at that time when he was doing the practice of generosity, he did so extensively that there is the instance of his giving had about 1,000 in number different hats within the same tree, under the same tree. So if that much he has done, and if one has to give up one's body, then there's no talk about giving one's wife, giving one's son, one's daughter, one's wealth, etc. And whereas with our generosity or our charity or giving, we do this practice with the hope of something in return. Suppose if we make offering, we feel that we are going to do great favor to the person, in which he may feel great gratitude to me. And with regard to the making of giving, with the motivation of becoming rich in the next lifetime, that also is not the pure one. So this is also the way we normally have the attitude when doing the generosity. One, we may generate the thought of pride. With regard to the bodhisattva, they have neither the pride nor the hope for the reward or return of engaging in the act of generosity, and they don't aspire that by doing this giving I may become rich in next life. So therefore, according to the text, without aspiring for return and result, to do the act of giving is the practice of the children of conqueror. The very practice is like the sun. During the cold winter time, the sun shines and gives us warmth, but still the sun will not tell to us that I have been so kind to you, now give me something in return. And if with regard to the electricity power, if we are using heater, we have to pay the tax for it. If we are to use the air conditioner, we have to pay the tax for it. And if we are to light or illuminate our room, we have to pay for it. Whereas with the sun, we actually don't pay at all. So our charity or our generosity is like the electricity power, trying to aspire that there will be tax return. With the sunlight, there is not any aspiration for reward or result. So with the bodhisattva, when they do the act of generosity, they don't aspire for result, they don't feel pride or proud, and they don't feel to aspire for something in return. So even if one may do the act of generosity or giving, but still with the aspiration of result and reward in return, then that is declining the very practice of the children of conqueror. So to do the act of generosity without any aspiration for return, result is the practice of the bodhisattva or the children of conqueror. Even the bodhisattvas, when they do the act of charity, they do it with the understanding of the three circles not truly existent, like the lines which is in the guide to Madhyamaka, which is in Hindi, Madhyamaka Avatar. So to do the generosity without any truth apprehension of the three circles. From the six perfections, this is brief explanation about the giving. So next is the morality. One who has taken the precept and the ordination, whether be it the full monk or full ordained monk or the novice or the novice, they should observe it instead not observing that properly, and after talking about the generation of bodhicitta, they actually are the subject to laughter. And even with the layperson, they should observe the morality of abandoning the 10 non-virtuous actions. And if they, instead of not observing that, and instead trying to talk about the generation of bodhicitta, that also becomes the object of laughter. And the very text says, without morality, even the purpose of oneself will not be accomplished. Then then to accomplish the welfare of others is the object of laughter. Therefore, without any intention of the worldly or mundane, to observe the morality is the practice of the children of conqueror. Actually, the very observance of the morality should be like the lines which come in the Madhyamika Avatara, that morality is so pure that even in dream, the broken morality are not happen or they don't arise. And actually, the morality is the basis, and without which the two other training will not be possible, the training of the concentration and the training of the wisdom. And morality is so important as the foundation, like the navel of the wheel on which all the parts depend. It is so is because to have a good wisdom, one has to have a good concentrated power of mind. And to have a good concentrated power of mind, one has to have no distraction, for which one has to guard the three doors, body, speech, and mind, for which purpose one has to depend on pure morality. And if one can guard one's body, speech, and mind against the discordant factor, then this will naturally bring a good concentration, which will further bring a good wisdom. Morality is like our dress or garment. And actually, if one has no morality, then it is like a broken vase into which one can't put anything at all. So without morality, one cannot have any other qualities, virtues at all. Next is the patience, the bodhisattva who want the wealth of virtue. For them, even whoever may bring harm to them, not getting angry, instead to look upon the person who harmed to them as the treasury of jewels, is the practice of the children of conqueror. If somebody speaks a bad word to us, we feel really pain and something striking to our heart. Whereas with the bodhisattva, if they are spoken or abused, spoken bad word, they, instead of getting angry, they feel that they have found a great treasure. And if they find someone who is the enemy and going to come to cut their head, they would think that they have found the best among the treasures. We know the example of the bodhisattva ever weeping. So that bodhisattva, when he was looking for enough wealth to be able to receive teaching, then Brahma emanated in the form of an ascetic and came to that bodhisattva and begged for his part of body, for which the bodhisattva said, "Oh, I have found the best among the treasure that I am able to offer you part of my body." For us, if we meet with good condition, we feel proud. That is one loss. And for us, when we meet with bad conditions, we feel depressed. That is another loss. Whereas with the bodhisattva, when they meet with good condition, they don't feel proud. That is a good profit. And the time when they meet with bad conditions, they take the bad condition as the path. That is also a profit. So it is like the lines in Guru Puja or Lama Chepa, which says even if somebody abused the girls and tried to find fault in me, instead not getting moved, instead to repay kindness for his harm, thereby may I perfect the perfection of patience or tolerance. So the practice of patience is very important, as the lines in one of the major texts states that there is no austerity or penance like the patience, and there's no negativity like anger. So for a bodhisattva, the practice of the patience or tolerance is one of the most important practices. Because it is very difficult to release our anger, whereas for bodhisattva, when an enemy comes, they don't look upon the enemy as enemy. Instead, they look upon the enemy as their teacher. And with us, if one of our enemy has died, there is possibility we might rejoice. If something has gone wrong with one of our enemy, there is possibility we might eat extra food and try to gather our friend and celebrate. And whereas with the bodhisattva, if there is an enemy, then there is an object to practice on the patience. And if they can practice on the patience, then they can accumulate merit by which they can attain enlightenment. So to accumulate merit, we have to have patience practice, for which we must have somebody who tried to arouse our anger. Don't practice patience on somebody who treat us affectionately or with love. For example, with our parents, if they treat us nice, can we practice patience on them? We can't practice in such occasion. Actually, as worse the person does a harm to us, that much we have to generate patience. If one can meditate or train on the patience, one becomes great or siddhi or attained person. So to have that, we need an object on which we can practice the patience. To this, we understand the importance. So maybe we stop at the patience. Instance of a person, and he asked to the another person, "What are you doing?" And the second person replied, "I am meditating or training on the patient." Oh, in that case, you eat shit. And the second person, who was supposed to be meditating on patience, he replied back, "You eat shit." Train on patient in such way is silly, meaning that. Please make the motivation that I will listen to this teaching of the 37 practices of the Bodhisattvas conduct, which summarize the essence of all the other practices of the Bodhisattva. So I listen to this because of the means to attain enlightenment, which I aspire to attain in order to liberate sentient beings equal to the number of the extent of space. So, with regard to the bodhicitta, even if you have generated the two kinds of the bodhicitta, the conventional and the ultimate, that much is not enough, because having generated the bodhicitta, both kind of the bodhicitta, one has to abide on the conduct. So, what are the conducts? The first one is to turn the negative or discordant circumstances into the path, which are 10, as we explained before. And after that, there are two others. One is the 6 perfections, and second is to actually train in the conduct. And with regard to the 6 perfections, I think we have spoken on it, on some perfection. So the text, when it comes to the perfection of the patience, the line starts with for the son of or child of a conqueror who wants the wealth of a virtue. So this is the bodhisattvas, because in order to perfect their conduct, they have to have the wealth of the virtue, which means the virtue. So for a bodhisattva, if there is somebody trying to trying to bring harm to him, or for a bodhisattva, if somebody tries to harm him, then for a bodhisattva, such occasion is like meeting with a treasure which is so valuable. And for us ordinary sentient beings, whenever somebody tries to harm, we feel very angry. But this is not so with the bodhisattvas who train on the perfection of patience or tolerance. And for them, even if somebody tries to cut their head, they feel that they are meeting with or they are finding a very valuable treasure, because in order to do the welfare of the sentient beings, they have to be perfected in all the qualities. So these very circumstances of somebody trying to harm them is actually a means for a bodhisattva to train his perfection on patience. And for a bodhisattva, what he tries most is not external enemy. Instead, what he tries most to defeat is the internal hatred, which is the real enemy. Therefore, for a bodhisattva, when he meets in such situation, when somebody tries to harm him, then it becomes a training in austerity for a bodhisattva. And as with the Buddha, when he was before an ordinary sentient being training on the path, at that time, how many lives he forsake trying to practice on the patience, and how many hardships he underwent. Remembering all those past life story of Buddha, we should also try to do as much training and perfection of the patience as we can. And we should try to look the evils of the anger and should look on the qualities or benefit of patience, and in this way try to train on the perfection of patience as much as we can. And with our great Atisha, he actually brought with him from India one very angry Acharya, so Acharya in another word, and Acharya, very learned man. But that man was very angry. But when Atisha, he brought that angry man with him to Tibet, the Tibetans asked him, why you bring this angry man with you? And Atisha replied back, because I want to train on patience. So he served as a very good circumstance for training on the patience. But for a beginner to do so is very difficult, and this is only for those in quite an advanced level. So for us, normally it's very difficult to practice on the patience. Anyhow, we should try from a very small extent of a relationship. First, we try to do practice of patience with relation to one's Dharma friends, brothers and sisters, and one's usual friend whom you have a daily contact. Whereas the text says, therefore, for a bodhisattva, without being angered to all, instead to train on patience, is the practice of the children of conquerors. So that is, for a bodhisattva, whenever somebody tries to harm him, for him it is like finding a very valuable treasure.